Here was the advance notice we got that the president's longtime advisor, Roger Stone, was going to be arrested and indicted today. One of the reasons we got this long indictment from the special counsel's office against Stone unsealed today is because of action that the House Intelligence Committee took last month. Last month, we think December 14th, the special counsel Robert Mueller made a request to Congress. He wanted an official transcript of Roger Stone's testimony to the House Intelligence Committee. Congress said yes. The committee said yes. Just before the president shut down the government, that committee voted unanimously to turn over the official transcript of Roger Stone's testimony to the Intelligence Committee, which had taken place in September 2017. They voted to turn that transcript over to Robert Mueller. Now, in mid-December, the Washington Post flagged that as a sign that Mueller might be moving soon to charge Roger Stone with making false statements in that testimony. Otherwise, why would he need an official transcript of Stone's remarks? The Washington Post was right in that prediction. Today, the special counsel charged Roger Stone with 5 counts of making false statements to Congress, which raises the question of whether or not Mueller has asked to look at anybody else's transcripts, right? Interesting question, it turns out. I can tell you that we have a single source tonight, and it is just a single source, but it is a source close to the investigation, who tells us that the special counsel has viewed a number of transcripts from witnesses testifying before the Senate in the Russia investigation. Now, again, we believe that Mueller would need to formally request official transcripts from witness testimony in order to bring charges on the basis of those transcripts if witnesses lied. We've seen that, for example, when it came to the Senate testimony of Sam Patten. He was charged with lying to investigators. His plea agreement also included deals of his lies to the Senate. Patten is one person whose official transcript was formally conveyed from the Senate to Mueller so that his lies in his Senate testimony could be included in his plea agreement. But as for other people whose transcripts have just been reviewed by Mueller, whether or not he's got an official copy, again, a single source close to the investigation tells us that has happened in the case of a number of different witnesses who have testified on the Senate side. We are trying to find the number, not just a number, but so far we've got that nugget to go with. On the House side, Roger Stone is now the second person in the president's orbit who has been charged with lying to the House Intelligence Committee. Roger Stone and Michael Cohen were both hit with felony charges for lying to House Intel in their testimony. Now, the new chair of the Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff, today said he is happy to convey all the transcripts from all the witnesses who have appeared before his committee in this investigation thus far. He's happy to convey all of those transcripts to the special counsel's office as soon as possible. Chairman Schiff saying today, quote, "The first order of business for the committee will be to release all remaining transcripts to the special counsel's office." Here's the thing, though. Did you notice the tense of the verb that he used there? The first order of business for the committee will be to release. Here's something to watch. All right, we've already got 2 people indicted for felonies for lying to House Intelligence, Cohen and Stone. Mueller had to obtain both of their transcripts from the House Intelligence Committee before he could file those charges. Is House Intelligence sending Mueller anybody else's transcripts? The thing to watch here is that it turns out they actually can't. They can't until they have the Intelligence Committee up and running. And they cannot do that until they have a full list of members for the Intelligence Committee. And so far, Republicans are not naming any members for the Intelligence Committee. Really? By our count, Republicans have managed to name members for 23 different committees, everything from agriculture to appropriations to Veterans Affairs to the Joint Committee on the Library. But thus far, they have not named anyone for the Intelligence Committee, which means the Intelligence Committee cannot act at all, including to send Mueller the transcripts of further witnesses who may have lied to them. A Democratic committee aide tells us tonight that if Republicans finally getting around, if Republicans finally get around to naming people for the Intelligence Committee, if they were able to do that by Monday, Mueller could have all the transcripts from all of the House intelligence witnesses by Wednesday. Schiff apparently really means it, that it will be their first order of business. But the Republicans can stop him from doing it anyway, as long as they won't allow him to conduct any business by not giving him any Republican members for his committee. That's called small ball. We'll be right back.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.